friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Mark, and I thank you so much for coming by today. I am glad you're here because I want to discuss with you the Inktober Challenge wrap-up. And that's what this is right here. This is my sketchbook that I did every single drawing in. It's a very small square book, so I was very limited as far as my size goes. This thing is about maybe 4 or 5 inches wide by 4 or 5 inches wide. I had a limited space to work in, which I thought was going to be a great idea, but proved to be a little challenging at times. I had a lot of fun doing this challenge, and I was part of a Facebook group where over 13,000 other members were also focused on the Inktober Challenge. Now, for me, my approach was to use the official word prompt put out by Jake Parker and to do it traditionally, pen and ink, and do one drawing per day every day for 31 days. I didn't realize how tough this was going to be, but it was. It was a great challenge, and I'm really happy I did it. I learned a lot about my artwork, and I've been doing this for years, so for me to say I learned about my artwork was a great benefit for me. Before I show you that, I want to show you this one drawing in this other sketchbook here, because this was the drawing that sort of started me off. There's a reason I'm showing you this. I have a video about this called the 10 Reasons to Avoid Inktober, where I do this in a speed lapse video. But the reason I'm showing you this one is because this sort of outlined my style when we started the Inktober Challenge. This was how I was drawing, and I was very happy with this. It's a little messy, but it's fine. And it was exactly the way I had envisioned it in my head, these little characters bouncing around. I was happy with it, but it's scribbly and scratchy and messy, and that was my style when I started. What I learned along the way was I went back to my old ways, my old style, and I was very reluctant to go that route at the beginning, but I realized, you know what, that's really where I'm comfortable with. I have a style, and this challenge returned me to a style that not that I forgot it, but it's just something that I moved away from. And I want to share that with you. So I'm going to jump right into this sketchbook. This is my handbook travel log, if you can see that here. This thing has been great for me. It's a multimedia book, but as you can see, my first drawing was Inktober 2017. The great thing about this is I have this whole book filled with these 31 drawings. And I'll go through it pretty quickly so we don't spend a lot of time. But I will start off by saying number 1 was the word swift, and I hated this. I know it's wrong for me to say I hated my own drawing, but my head wasn't really in gear yet. The word was swift, and I decided to do swift birds, which is a kind of bird. And I thought it was going to be fun, and it just didn't turn out the way I wanted. It's a neat little pattern, but it might look good for wallpaper, or maybe I don't even know if wallpaper would be good, but maybe gift wrapping paper maybe, or something. But I just wasn't happy with that. So on day 2, I had to revisit for the word divided. Went back to that scratchy style that you saw previous, and I was pretty happy with this one. This is fine. By day 3, that's when I decided I wanted to get playful, but here I really get into putting concept to just the word alone. So for me, this image was about rumors being poisonous, and I was happy with this piece. I'm not crazy about the contrast between the two sides here. It was a little funky. Really liked underwater. This came out nice. I just wish I hadn't done it so dark. I wish I had done a lighter gray wash underneath. Another one where I got a little bit caught up in things and I rushed it and I couldn't think properly of a good solution for this, so I did the long arm of the law, which it's successful in completing the challenge, but I just wasn't happy with the illustration itself. Getting back to my style, I said, okay, I want to really get into this, so I did a sword with some memorabilia that everything here means something to me, and I have a personal connection to each thing. My favorite thing was drawing this little phone cord. I love drawing the details. I love these little line hatches and things. I really get into that stuff. Shy was day 7, and I just really enjoyed putting this little kid in an outhouse. He's hiding because he's so shy, and there's a party going on, and he just didn't want to be around, so he just found a place to hide. I had fun doing that one. Number 8 was crooked, and honestly, there's 2 things I like about this. One, I was able to put a self-portrait of me in there, which I was happy with that, although I do not own a striped pair of sweatpants. But I can't stand everything about this drawing. It failed for me as far as what I wanted to do. Does it succeed as far as the challenge? Yes, but I just don't like the drawing. However, I really like this guy. And that's something that's so great about these drawings, is that you can pull something out of each one that you like. And for me, that was this guy here. I wanted to make sure I had a couple of portraits in this challenge, so Screech was number 9. So this actor, Dustin Diamond, played a character named Screech, and that's his portrait right there. By day 10, I did the word gigantic, and this is where you can tell I'm starting to have fun, because this is my style. These drips here, you can see these go back where you see this drips here. That drip kind of thing recurs over and over, and I have a lot of fun with that. So you can see the little drips of sweat here, but I was at work thinking about day 11, and I kept thinking about it. Oh, I want to get home so I can get to today's prompt. And when I got home, I had already thought of what I wanted to do, a home run, because the word prompt was run. And I kept thinking baseball, and I listened to baseball on the way home, and I kept thinking home run. So I just drew a bunch of homes running, and yuck, that was fun. Shattered was basically pretty cliche for me, but I did have a good time drawing these little shards of stuff. It took forever to draw these little things, and so what sometimes happens in these kind of drawings is the clichéness of the drawing itself overpowers the time it took and the effort that went into it. So while you see the words hopes and dreams, I see the time it took to put in the little shards, and maybe you see that too. I used to work in a steel shop, and when you are teaming, that's usually when you're forging steel. So that was familiar to me, and I wanted to use that definition of the word teaming instead of the typical word. And speaking of running around, we have fierce. And again, this is returning to my style, the style that I enjoy, the style that I love to draw with, playing with lines and just having a really, really good time just detailing these pieces, and this was a lot of fun. Mysterious, well, that's the box. If you go back to sword, there's that box, and sure enough, here it is again, more close up and more detailed. And that's what I love about doing this kind of stuff, is that you can revisit your own illustration work and use your own reference from a previous drawing for a new drawing. Fat was number 16, and I just figured I'd try something different than, the typical, draw a fat character. This was a social message for me. It was about domestic violence, which had been in the news lately, and it really struck a nerve with me. So if you kind of cover up this side of the piece, you see this girl has been abused on one side, and then the other side, she's not very happy, kind of shh, don't say anything. And the truth is, silence does equal death, because if we don't speak up and speak loud, things like domestic violence just continue and continue and continue, and it just is unacceptable. So it's just a little bit serious, a little bit somber. So I wanted to get back to more fun and more free-spirited. So here we have a Fred Astaire character. This is Fred, and I just wanted to do something graceful. This custodian, I worked as a custodian when I was younger, and I remember mopping floors and buffing floors, and it's a job that paid the bills, and I respect anyone who works in the service field like this. So I wanted to capture this custodial gentleman in his graceful pose dancing with his mop. Now this one was a little tough. This has to do with more domestic abuse. This is a portrait of Harvey Weinstein, the movie producer, who was in the news the day I drew this. And so I did this for the word filthy. Fingers are pointing at him, with allegations of sexual misconduct and abuse and all kinds of stuff. And it was just foul, some of the things that I heard that he did. And, I thought, what, a great opportunity to do another portrait and really show off something that is a darker side. It was not fun at all to sit and stare at that guy as a reference. But for Cloud, I wanted to do something a little different on this one. A lot of different images came in my mind, but a lot of the young lady's judgments were clouded in bad judgment. So you can see the things around her are what influenced her decision making. For deep, my mind kind of goes in a direction that I try to avoid cliche, and I try to do something a little bit less obvious. So here we're looking down into a hole, 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 and it keeps going down. So I wanted to get this, this image of deep and perspective and just something a little bit different. This happened to me that morning where I had to update my phone and it was driving me crazy. This is more like an iPad, but this was kind of that feeling you get when you have to deal with a new operating system or a new update or something where it's not working and you just want it to work, and you're in a rush, so you start getting really like, oh, come on. For Trail, number 22, I just had a lot of fun doing this one. I don't know what prompted the idea for this one, but I was told by one person that they really enjoyed this because it was so different. It's a foot, and this gentleman is hopping along in the background. That was a good fun drawing. For Juicy, again, I wanted to do something different, and I didn't want to just do the obvious juicy piece of fruit or something like that. And I did a juicy worm, and my mind went to that old song. There's an old campfire song about juicy worms. So that's what I wanted to do, as a juicy earthworm. So kind of gross. This is Blind, and this is a blind man looking through blinds. It satisfied the challenge, but I had extra time to draw, so I decided that this was okay, but I really want to do something that's more in line with what I like to do. So I did another drawing for it, and this is for blind as well, and it's two blind kids on a seesaw. So that's my sense of humor right there, playing with words. I just thought that was kind of fun. 25, I had to rush this one. I wasn't really thrilled with the way it came out, but it communicates the idea. The word was ship, so I had this FedEx ground truck and this guy shipping a ship to this kid. So pretty funny. Yeah. Number 26 was a lot of fun. I had a bunch of people in an elevator, and the word was squeak. Is the elevator squeaking, or is somebody making a squeaking noise that everyone else can unfortunately smell? And that was the idea, was maybe this guy or maybe one of these people is making a squeaking sound that the others are being a little appalled at. You can see she's not very happy with it. But if you look really close, there's a little mouse down in the corner, and maybe he's the culprit. Maybe he's the squeaker. Who knows? Number 27 was Climb. I could have ended this right here. I could have just done the prompt and left it at that, but I was really more interested in capturing an animal picture, and I hadn't done any animal pictures, so I wanted to get at least one in. So here we have some opossums, and these little critters are trying to climb up there. And of course, in drawing this, I gave them each names, and they all have a different personality. This guy in the back is falling off. This was a lot of fun to do as well. I really enjoyed that one. And for Fall, when you love what you do, it's as easy as falling off a log. And that was the idiom that I went with, is falling off a log. And I really enjoyed drawing this one. And for United, I just wanted to show that it's about partnership and being united. So I enjoyed that. Again, right on the money with my style. For Found, again, that style is still there, and I like the consistency and that the pieces are cohesive next to each other. And again, it plays into the sense of humor that I have. She had hid it so well that it took him 14 days to finally find it. And obviously it's his tooth. And for day 31, the word mask, I went back to primary shapes, square, circle, and triangle, emotions, going with those, and comedy, tragedy. It's all kinds of things. And if you look in the background, there's people standing in the background wearing the same masks, and that we all wear masks. And I thought it was a nice way to close out the Inktober challenge by just showing the emotions that we all go through in this kind of a challenge, the frustrations, the joys, and the failures that we all kind of have to deal with. Overall, this challenge for me was just fantastic. I was really happy to revisit a style that I had almost forgotten that I had and that I was starting to get away from. It kind of put me right back on track with the way I like to draw. Thank you so much for coming by and just sharing this with me. I'm so happy we were able to take a look at this book. The good thing for me is that I have this whole book right here still to go, and I will save that for next year's challenge and try to take on this Inktober challenge. So this will be put on a bookshelf for a year, and I'll pull it out again next year and try the same thing. Forcing myself to work in a specific style, one drawing a day for 31 days, pen and ink, working from a word prompt, no skipping ahead, no falling behind, just sticking to the challenge, because that really, really worked for me, and I hope it worked for you too if you pursued the Inktober challenge. If not, maybe you'd consider doing it next year, because it was a ton of fun, and I'll do it again in a heartbeat. Thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed checking these out, and God bless.